I'll just invite you to settle down and take the following words from Ernest Holmes. I am one with perfect action. Everything I do, say, or think is quickened into action through this right understanding and this correct knowing. The harmonious action of the great whole operates through me now and at all times. I'm carried along by this right action, and I am compelled to do the right thing at the right time. There is nothing in me that can hinder this action from flowing through me. So I just invite you to take into meditation the idea that harmonious action of the great whole operates through you now and at all times. And so with great thanks, I'm just so grateful to know that here and now, that I am one with the great whole, and I am in harmony with right action. And so knowing that this is the truth, that we're all here at the right time, the right moment, and know and accept for each one of us that we are one with the infinite, with the divine, and that this right action flows through us. I give great thanks for this gathering. I know that the words of Natasha comes from the highest place, knowing that this is spirit in form, the great spirit, right here, right now, speaking through her, giving us words of wisdom and bringing us to a greater understanding of who we are. I'm also grateful that the lyrics and the words and the songs of Cahill and Delene comes from this highest consciousness as well. I know that this is the truth. I know that our gathering is blessed. I claim a blessing for each and every one of us this day, knowing that as we go forth, we're always in right knowing, right action, right speaking, right doing. I declare that our gathering is blessed, for it is God. It is the presence of the Almighty. I give great thanks for the coming together through technology, wherever we are, at any moment in time. It is all God, and it is good. I declare this day perfect. I declare this day good, and it is all good, and it is all good, and so it is.
Beautiful.
Yeah. You know how sometimes merchants will say, hey, it's Christmas in July, and they're just basically trying to get you to buy stuff, right? So we thought we'd do Christmas in May, so we're going to do Joy to the World.
Well, no.
What?
We're going to
You're still
do
talking.
Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog.
It's called, but the official title is Joy to the World.
That's what everybody calls it. It's actually called Joy to the World.
Jeremiah was a bullfrog. He was a good friend of mine. I never understood a single word he said, but he always had a peace of mind, and we always had a really fun time. Joy to the world, all the boys and girls. Joy to the people, everyone you see. Joy to you and me. If I were the king of the world, I'd tell you what I'd do. I'll throw away the misery and pain in the world and bring out the joy in me and you. Singing joy to the world, joy the boys and girls. Joy to the people, everyone you see. Joy to you and me. If I were the king of the world, I'd tell you what I'd do. I'll throw away the misery and pain in the world and bring out the joy in me and you. Joy to the world, all the boys and girls. Joy to the people, everyone you see. Joy to you and me.
Sing along now.
Joy to the world, all the boys and girls. Joy to the people, everyone you see. Joy to you and me. Joy to the people, everyone you see. Joy to you and me.
Those are the New Thought lyrics.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Are we all awake now?
We are all awake, and I won't date myself by saying I know all the original lyrics.
Oh,
too.
yeah. I think we all do.
Oh, good morning again, everyone. And let's give Cahill and Delene another round of applause for just bringing up the joy this morning. And here we are in beautiful San Diego in the middle of May gray, but the sun is shining in here in the sanctuary. So that's pretty cool, I think. Wow. Well, this month we've been talking about the light within the shadows. And I'm just going to do a little recap of what we've been talking about this year so far. So remember, our theme has been living out loud. What does that mean? And I think that means basically claiming the full scope of all the gifts and talents that we bring into the world and living our lives purposefully and intentionally, or to use another metaphor, because New Thought loves a metaphor, to shine our light more brightly in the world. So we've been looking this month at this synergy of light and dark. And culturally, we're kind of conditioned to think of light as the positive and dark as the negative. Dark is something that we want to avoid. It's mysterious, it's confusing. But the truth is we need both the light and the dark, right? We need it to understand ourselves, our shadow aspects. We need it to be able to see the light, right? We don't see the stars when the sky is light. We only see the stars when the sky is dark. So our challenge and our opportunity always is to be looking at how these aspects of ourselves are coming together and what we can learn about ourselves from that. Okay, so one of the things that I really love about our teaching, the science of mind, is the essential role of action. One of the things that we always say is treat and move your feet, right? So we believe in the power of prayer, we believe in the power of thought, but we also believe in the power and the necessity of action. Okay, what does that mean? We're going to get into that a little bit more. But before we do, we're going to take a minute to just acknowledge that this is Memorial Day weekend. And we know that Memorial Day is our annual opportunity to recognize the service and sacrifice of servicemen and women who have died in action. As San Diego has the highest concentration of retired service people in any county in the United States, nearly most of us, if not all of us, have some association with a family member or a friend who has served, and our own practitioner, Jody, is one of those veterans. So I just want to invite everyone to go within for a moment and let's honor the service and sacrifice of all of those folks. Thank you. And for those of you who may not be familiar with that image, that's actually Fort Rosecrans here in San Diego, which is one of the national cemeteries. A beautiful place to visit if you haven't had a chance to do that. That's out on Point Loma. So, moving back into our topic for today. We have choice in everything we do, don't we? And one of our fundamental principles in science of mind is that we believe in the incarnation of spirit in humankind, and that all people are incarnations of that one spirit. So the question for us today is, are we willing to show up and shine and share that light within us, that divine essence, that divine spirit? If so, if we are, then we have to take responsibility and accountability for our own preparedness to do that, for our choices and our actions. So are we willing to bring what we have within us so that we can grow and develop? Are we willing to think about if that is the best that we have to offer, or are we holding back someplace? Are we willing to receive feedback so we can continue to improve, or do we get defensive if we perceive any criticism and feedback that we receive? Do we allow ourselves to benefit from our experiences in life and to incorporate the lessons we've learned as we move forward? Do we forgive ourselves for not doing as well as we might like to sometimes? Do we applaud ourselves for our effort, even if it's not perfect? Where are we in this? Who are we serving and what are we contributing? These are some of the questions, don't worry, there's no quiz after, that can help us engage and participate in life, but also to shine, no matter what the circumstances are that we find ourselves in. So there are a few words that I'd like to discuss this morning. Devotion, enthusiasm, action, and practice. Devotion is a powerful word, isn't it? We usually think about devotion in a kind of faith or spiritual context, right? It's a religious observance. It is an expression of faith. But devotion also denotes enthusiasm for a cause, for a person, for an activity. And as we've spoken about here in the past, enthusiasm means to be full of God, right? That's where that word comes from. En theos, full of God. And so devotion and enthusiasm for me reflect the idea of being in the flow, of being in the flow of spirit, of being in the flow of something greater than we are. And in our teaching, since we know that God is our source and our call is to live and act from that truth, we know that that is our state, our opportunity to always be in that state of enthusiasm. Do you feel enthusiastic all the time? No, maybe not. Me neither. But that's really where we can be the more that we remember that we are at choice to recognize that flow that is always present in us. Ernest Holmes says, "We are spiritual entities in a spiritual system, and there is a divine destiny back of each one of us. This divine creativeness is stimulating everything in our lives to a newness and a freshness, a new growth that is bigger and better and happier. The secret of life within each is a divine creativeness." Cynthia James is a spiritual teacher who commented recently on her blog that many motivational speakers, healers, and teachers are inviting people to shine in the light of their being. But I cannot tell you how many people, clients and friends, are asking the question, how? How do I do this? So I would say that we do this by knowing the truth of what we are, expressions of the divine, of knowing what we have to offer and how we want to be, what our dreams are, and choosing action. Because it is only through action, speaking and doing, that our light is truly visible to others. As Cynthia James puts it, by choosing to make conscious contributions for the health and well-being of ourselves and humanity. When you were a kid, did anybody ever tell you to practice something? How did you feel about that? I'm seeing a few shake heads. Let me affirm you, I hated that. And I think I heard that nearly every day. Have you practiced your instrument? Have you practiced your homework? Have you practiced this? Have you practiced that? Right? What an onerous thing practice is. And yet, has anybody ever had the experience that when you practice, you get better at something? I know. So it's so annoying, isn't it? But it's so true. So I've really come to appreciate this idea of practice. And practice for me has two dimensions. One is experimentation, and the other is discipline and commitment. So here's a story about action and practice and shining your light. So this week, we're remembering the life of Tina Turner, the iconic singer who died at the age of 83. She overcame a childhood of trauma and of a broken home and an abusive marriage. to her first musical partner, Ike Turner, to become the queen of rock and roll, to be recognized globally by millions, to sell millions and millions of albums. When she left Ike Turner after numerous years of marriage one night, after years of having bones broken, of going on stage with a broken jaw, if you can imagine, she had 36 cents in her pocket and a mobile credit card. She ran across a highway in the middle of the night to find refuge in a hotel across the way. It wasn't easy what she went through, and her success didn't happen overnight. But she credited her practice of Nichiren Buddhism, and I apologize if I mispronounce Nichiren, for supporting many of the changes that she made in her life. She said, "As I began studying Buddhist teachings and chanting more, it led me to take responsibility for my life and to base my choices on wisdom, courage, and compassion. Not long after I started studying and chanting, I began to see that the power I needed to change my life was already within me." She began to recognize that divine essence in herself and to take action and choices based on that recognition, despite everything that had happened to her. And so we say to Tina, thank you, right, for your courage and your example. Ralph Waldo Emerson said this: "Do not be too timid and squeamish about your actions. All life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better." And that's one of the lessons, the kinds of lessons she took to heart in her life, because she kept on taking actions, even when she didn't know what to do next. She just did the best she could. Kind of like that Maya Angelou quote, right? Do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better, right? Let me say, as a recovering perfectionist, it often feels hard to take action. Any other recovering perfectionists in here? A few. That's great. Thank you. Glad to know I'm not alone. But that's how we learn, isn't it? By taking action, by taking risks, by making mistakes, and making new choices and taking new actions based on what we've learned. So another dimension of practice is discipline and commitment. Reverend Suzette once told me when I was going through a challenging time that if I spent even 15 minutes a day taking action towards my dreams, that this could make a big difference. Now, I admit, when she first said this to me, I was pretty skeptical. Really, 15 minutes? And she said that to me, I'm going to say about over 10 years ago. And I have to say I have learned the wisdom of this idea. And I invite you to think about it, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. So here's another story. Let's see. Another person whose example I find inspirational is Jose Andres Puerta, the Spanish-American chef known for creating his charity, the World Central Kitchen, in 2010, which has fed more than 250 million meals to people who have been impacted by climate change and war. Chef Andres, who is from Spain, did not graduate from high school. He did go to culinary school. He came to the United States with $50 and the promise of a job. And over the years, he worked his way up through that restaurant and then went on to others and eventually has established literally dozens of restaurants in the United States and the world, and gone on not only to create World Central Kitchen, but to teach at George Washington University and to do a number of other things. He says, "When I found myself alone in a new country, I didn't hit the jackpot. I didn't buy a lottery ticket. I just kept on going, right? I just kept on taking action. And he also said, what you create for yourselves, you must also create for others. We need to know ourselves, embrace our individuality, but it is not only the I, it is also the we. So we have different dimensions of this opportunity for shining. It is the opportunity to be fully realized, to express those gifts for the benefit of our own life and our own experience, but also to share those gifts for the benefit of others. Now, Ernest Holmes also tells us, if you think of life as flowing through your every action, you will soon discover that the things you give your attention to are quickened with new energy. Now, of course, you might say to me, well, I'm not Tina Turner or Jose Andres. I'm not an amazing singer or a talented chef or an athlete or, any number of amazing kinds of talents and gifts, right? And what I would say to you is that each one of us is here by appointment. Each one of us has something to contribute. Each one of us is important. And it is our life's journey to find out, to figure out what is ours to do and where we are to do it. We affirm as a spiritual principle that we can gain access to this knowledge through our intuitive nature, right? As expressions of spirit, we always have the potential, the possibility, the opportunity to connect with that greater wisdom within. How do we do that? We do that through meditation, contemplation, prayer work, visioning, any number of tools. And if you're feeling stuck and you'd like to move forward into that, we have wonderful practitioners like Sophia here this morning who shared that lovely reading with us. And you can find our practitioners after service and also contact them to work with them individually. Our task and our path is to find what it is that is meaningful for us. What is it that we have to share that we can also derive that sense of, this is me. I am here and I am offering this gift to the world. So I've shared these stories of some very amazing people who've been incredibly successful. And I want to share another story with you, because sometimes we get a little caught up in this, again, this idea of scale and perfectionism. Well, if I can't be a world famous rock star or, incredibly successful philanthropist, chef, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, or president of the United States, what difference can I really make as an individual? We can think of lots of people who make huge contributions. Well, what does it look like in a smaller scale? So some of you know I've not only just recently completed my ministerial training, but I'm also completing training in chaplaincy, hospital chaplaincy. Thank you. And I've been working at a hospital here in San Diego, and I met a man not very long ago who was in the hospital because he was having a recurrence of cancer after a long period of remission. And he was a man in his 40s, and he had 4 adult children. He was married, and he was feeling very discouraged about his condition and his prognosis. He and his wife had worked very hard to provide a good life for their children, and they had been waiting for them all to grow up so that they could really enjoy themselves and go travel and do all kinds of things that they had postponed while they were waiting and focusing on their kids. So here they're ready, and now his illness has returned and the prognosis was uncertain. And he asked me, what was the point? What was the point of working so hard all of these years? And I looked at him and I asked him, what did he believe about, did he believe in God? What did he believe about God? Did he believe that God was a loving presence? And then I asked him, what is the most important thing to you in your life? And he looked at me and he said, well, my children. Okay. And we sat there together for a while. And then after a time, he looked at me again and he said, well, he said, maybe that was the point, to get them to this point in their lives. And so I offer this story to you because we all have that opportunity, right? To be present in the lives of the people that we love, to the people that we encounter. And maybe that is why we are here. That's where he let his light shine, and he could see that that had made a difference in their lives. So there is no scale of reward from a spiritual standpoint about how you shine your light or where you shine your light. It's simply, that's the opportunity that we have, right? So what Tina Turner and Jose Andres did wasn't any better than what this man did. What they all had in common was that they shared their light. And that is our call together. So what I want to invite you to think about for a moment this morning. Oops, went the wrong way. Okay, I seem to be missing a slide, so I'll just tell you about it. I'd like to invite you to just go within for a few moments with these two questions, and there should be a little sheet of paper on your chair or in front of your chair that says notes on it, and there should be a pen. If you don't have one and you'd like one, raise your hand, and Emma will get, or Victoria might get one for you. So question one, what are the areas for me to express myself, to let my light shine, that would mean the most to me? That is a specific personal or public issue. What do I feel called to do? So that's question one. And question two is, what action could I take this week to move forward? And identify at least one. All right, so I'm just going to give you a couple minutes to think about those two questions. I'll say them again. Question one, what are areas for me to express myself, to let my true light shine, that would mean the most to me? Something that's either personal or public. What do I feel called to do? That is question one. And question two is, what action could I take this week to move forward? And this can be an action that doesn't take you more than 15 minutes. with someone that you trust, someone who can hear you. And if you're not certain who that is, again, our practitioners and our ministers are great people to share that with. So as our time together comes to an end this morning, I want to remind you to remember that we are all here to support healing ourselves, each other, our planet, all the life forms and beyond. Our individual lights help the collective light shine brighter. As we open to living out loud, we can move forward together. What we may call imperfection is really the perfection of God, right? The infinite variety of what the divine is. There is no such thing as being broken in God. We are as we are, and we can show up right now exactly as we are. There is healing in our vulnerability. And I want you to remember that Om is always a safe place to share that. If we bring our light, our shadows, all our nooks and crannies forward, it makes and will make for a stellar life. If we do our part to bring that together, then we're all going to have a much more powerful and holistic and whole experience of life together. Beyond anything that we've experienced or even imagined yet. I believe that action is an embodiment of devotion, of being full of God. So I invite you this morning to say yes to being full of God. And with that, I want to invite you to join me in an affirmation this morning. Today, I take action. I bless myself and the world with the light that I am. Okay, we're going to do it 2 more times. Today, I take action. I bless myself and the world with the light that I am. Today, I take action. I bless myself and the world with the light that I am. Thank you.